It's an interesting time. Interest rates are high. There is speculation from a lot of people that they're going to start coming down at some point in 2024. But we're in this little time of limbo, it feels like, where a lot of the sentiment is that we are at the peak of rates. And this little window might not last too long. And we've seen this a handful of times in our careers of slow year, transitioning into what we probably will see as a couple quite busy years because activity's been so low the last 2 years. And this seems like a really, really good window to get into the market, whether that be a first-time buyer, whether that be upsizing to a larger home for your family, or whether that be investing in real estate. And so I wanted to share my top 4 tips for looking for a deal. And there are deals out there. There's a lot of opportunity out there right now at the beginning of 2024. But 4 ways to get a deal in 2024. And James might have a 5th or a 6th. So this actually could be a really, really beneficial bonus episode for all you consumers out there who are thinking about getting into real estate or upsizing or whatever that may be. But why don't I just list them individually?
You've already touched on beat the crowd. Let's start there because you touched on that, Denny. And I don't want to jump ahead of you. If you want to go with a different one, I'll let you go with a different one.
You know what? The benefit of these 4 ways are they are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Any of them can be number 1. Any of them can be number 4. So let's start with that. On my list is number 4, but beat the crowd. The reason I say this is I firmly believe as soon as there is a rate drop, we are going to see a huge flood of activity. And I think that's going to be both from the listing side and the buyer side. But if we look back at the last 2 years, how many conversations have we had? And we're just one real estate team in Greater Vancouver out of 15,000 agents and another 9,000 agents in the Fraser Valley. How many conversations have we had with people that are on the sidelines right now because of the uncertainty of rates, because of the confusion of, well, yes, I could afford to do this upsize at these numbers, but if the rate goes up another 0.5, 1%, then I'd really be stretching myself. So I just want some clarity. Those conversations happen a lot. And I think that the sales prices in these next 2 to 3 months are going to be lower than they will be in 12 months.
I agree with that. I mean, a simple thing is imagine the difference of your reaction between a client coming to you, a potential buyer, potential investor, in April 2021 saying, I want a deal. I want to get something under market value. You'd follow that with like a slow, evil laugh.
Yeah.
Whereas today, you're like, let's get you a deal.
Yeah. There
are deals. Too many people are sitting on the fence. And there's been moments in my career that I have seen it. I felt that fall of 2022, there was deals. And then the last fall, there was deals. And right now there's deals. And I understand why, because there's a lot of buyers that physically can't afford to make the purchase in these rates.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at those conservative types. I'm looking at those types that have the money, that dodged this recession, that had the sub 3% 5-year fixed rate. I'm talking to you accountants, the ones sitting on it. I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't see it getting worse. My bet is that this year is going to be a year where in normal times I say sell in May, sell in June, but this year is potentially a year where it just continues to climb throughout the year. And right now there are not enough buyers and there are more sellers. And that equation is kind of rare when you look at the last 10 years in Vancouver real estate. I jumped the gun there, Denny.
It is rare. So I'd say that's
rare. It's less frequent.
For sure, yeah. So that's number 1. Don't be afraid to make a decision early in the year if you are looking to purchase your first home or upsize or invest. I think this right now is where the deals are. Number 2. This is a really big one and something, regardless of calendar year, that we often look at with buyers that are active early in the year is look for listings that have been on market since the fall, that have 60, 90, 120 days on market. There are a lot of them right now. And for whatever reason, it seems like the natural reaction for consumers that start their home search in January, February of a calendar year is only wait for new listings. Don't look back. They assume that something that's 90 days on market has something wrong with it or it's just way overpriced. And that's not always the case, especially coming out of a really slow fall.
as a realtor, when I'm looking at houses in a certain area, I automatically click on my Paragon MLS website and say, let's go by days on market. I want to see the newest to the oldest. But there's an argument where you go from oldest to newest now. And I think I'd like to look at that more often. But yeah, days on market. And that also goes for expired listings. There's listings that were on in the fall that haven't come back. There's people that are waiting for spring that still want to sell. So if you have an agent and you're looking for a home, don't just limit yourself to active listings. Have that agent pull up expired, canceled, terminated listings from the fall.
And there's been quite a few of those over the last 2 years, so that list can be quite extensive depending on what you're looking for. Number 3, there are not a ton of these, and after big rate hikes for the last 2 years, I would have assumed we'd see a little more foreclosures, but foreclosures are an area that you can definitely get a deal right now. I know you showed one in New West the other day that we had a conversation about, and your reaction was, this is priced well below market value.
Good. Yeah, I don't want to tell you the address.
Foreclosures work a little different. So if that's something that you're interested in, talk to a realtor that has done lots of them. But there are deals to be had there. And I think with buyers sitting on the sidelines, the way that a foreclosure works is you get an accepted offer, you remove subjects, and then there's a court date set. I think less people are going to show up to court just because there are less buyers that are active right now.
Less buyers willing to compete, you know, and foreclosure does have risks. It's, you're taking it as is, where is. There's no certainty that the stove's going to be there. There's no there's a lot of uncertainty, put it that way. But usually with that uncertainty comes a discount, and worth exploring. There haven't been many foreclosures in the past few years, and there will probably be more in the future. And there haven't been because when the market climbs so much, it allows people to get out of their financial troubles because they have equity.
Yeah.
And that equity, well, when you have 2 relatively years of flat market, some people don't have the equity anymore, especially with high mortgage rates.
Yeah. My last one, and this is more geared to investors and maybe first-time buyers because the majority of these are smaller condos in urban areas. But looking at assignments, I've never in my career seen this many assignments for sale, and they come and go depending on stage of a development. But specifically, there was one in New West that the developer just canceled all assignments because they're coming up for completion. But over the last few months, I saw upwards of 40 listings in that building at a time. And this is a strange time that where investors or people were buying condos, pre-sale condos 3-4 years ago that are coming up for completion now, that at that time, we're assuming they would have to close at a 2.5% interest rate. And now we're at a 6% interest rate. And a lot of them either can't close, don't want to close, or want to just move on from the investment. And I've seen a lot of assignments at the same price that they paid for 3 years ago. And I've seen a handful that have been below the price that they paid a few years ago. So those are pretty interesting opportunities. If you're I'm more geared towards the investor type of buyer, but there are a lot of them out there right now.
Yeah, if you have your agent fish for assignments, there's maybe it's an office Slack feed, a Facebook realtor group, put it out there that, hey, looking for assignment opportunities in a certain price point area, whatever it is, aside from just searching online, there are some that you can find online through, maybe, it used to be Craigslist, but keep in mind, developers do limit the ability to market these assignments in many cases. So you kind of have to be a little more proactive to find them, especially the hardship ones. And I think it's a good wake-up call for Vancouver pre-sale investors. We blindly, the developers had a good reign there where they got really lucky at getting lineups around the corner, felt very empowered to say, you can buy on my terms, on my date, at my price. And people are just buying blindly because there was a long history of making money on pre-sales. But that history is coming to an end temporarily. Actually, quite frankly, my own opinion is there is an argument when I look at some of these Vancouver opportunities that I like the opportunity of buying a pre-sale today with the prices that I expect in 2, 3, 4 years from now. So I do think that we are in a moment where people that bought in the past few years are not going to see the gain, but we're also in a moment where considering a pre-sale today at the right price in the right community could very likely see a gain.
Maybe that's number 4A.
4A.
4A is pre-sales today. And I'll give some specific examples because I look at Brentwood as an example, somewhere I've been looking recently, and resale for 1 and 2 bedroom condos that are 2 to 5 years old, it's kind of in that $1,000 to $1,100 a square foot range. And at the peak year and a half ago when Brentwood did their last tower, Amazing Brentwood, those were upwards of $1,400, $1,450 a square foot. Now, looking at Gilmore Place, which is Nani development, huge development with some pretty amazing amenities, right at the Gilmore SkyTrain station, looked recently, and they still have some leftover product that is just below $1,100 a foot. So they are almost in line with resale prices, and this is for a building that is going to be done probably in 2 years. So there are some interesting pre-sale opportunities right now where we would guess in 2 years from now interest rates are lower. We would guess that market activity is better than it is or has been for the last 12 months. So there is more opportunity there for appreciation than we have seen in a pre-sale environment over the last 2 or 3 years.
I'd also guess when interest rates are lower, there's going to be more construction. There's going to be costs of construction are going to rise because there's only so many. There's more projects that are going to need to get built than the supply of people that can build them. And that's kind of and I also feel right now like there's a lot of projects on hold, and there's a few developers that are selling and launching, and they can't reduce their prices and make it financially make sense. So I don't expect to see a year from now a project being launched in East Vancouver for $100 or $200 a foot less than today. I just think they're going to not launch them if that's the case. So the prices that we're seeing today in a lot of cases are kind of their bottom line. I have a 4B as well.
Beautiful.
4B is just stay glued to the MLS. Stay glued. Make it part of your regular habit just to watch inventory, because if you watch sporadically, it's hard to really understand value. You want to get your mind to a position that when you see a new listing come up, you recognize the value. And it's hard to do that without consistently watching. And that doesn't have to be MLS. It can be other avenues if we're talking about assignments, but MLS is the easy one. Just getting to a point where you recognize value is important. I have like a 5, but it's not really a tip on getting a deal. It's just a product that I think, well, let's get into it, because a lot of people like to build their dream home. A lot of people want a turnkey home on the street and don't want to do renovations. And I understand if you're in a great financial position, you have a lot of money, and time, and money is less important than your time. Great, buy your new home, buy your perfect, charming home on that tree-lined street. But there are far less buyers looking at fixer-uppers. And when you look at the cost of construction for a new home, with all the consultants and requirements nowadays and the higher energy requirements, the cost of building a new home is very expensive. And there's less people willing to buy a home that needs cosmetic work. Yes, they're less efficient, but if you look at a 1990s or early 2000s home or an 80s home, you're often dealing with a great floor plan, a large shell, and it is significantly less expensive to cosmetically renovate it, update the systems than it is to build new from scratch, especially to today's standards. So I often feel that if you don't have the deepest pockets, but you want a beautiful home, maybe consider a renovation, because less people are looking at them, especially now. People want turnkey because the sky is falling, right? Yeah. And it is not falling, but it's an opportunity to get a product that isn't necessarily perfect.
But can you make an 80s or a 90s home pretty, because they're not very architecturally stunning?
Yeah. Paint that stucco a dark color, rip out every tile. Yeah, you know what? You gotta take a little sacrifice in the curb appeal. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, once you're in the home, it would be amazing.
There you go.
That's all I have.
I think that's it.
Yeah, we'd love to help you find a deal. Reach out if you want to help get a deal.
There you go.